Countdown right now. Hey, how are you today? I want to discuss old fashioned libertarianism because it's a term that's very confusing to many people from across the political spectrum. And frankly, it can be a headache to discuss it at any length, especially if one is a socialist and you're discussing libertarianism with a libertarian from your socialist perspective. Now, when it comes to discussions with libertarians, it depends on the individual libertarian you're talking to. Because sometimes they can be reasonable, depending on who they are, and sometimes they can just be belligerent and obnoxious. Sometimes the reasonable and the belligerent can be occasionally the same person or persons. And then there are libertarians or self described libertarians who sound like typical movement conservatives, but they'll tell you, well, I'm basically a libertarian, but I'm basically a libertarian, depending on the issue, of course. So, and I'll get into that in a moment. But when economic libertarians tell me that anything that's done by the government is coercion, violence, or tyranny, I mean, do they think that government is capable of being a neutral party, a small benevolent government being neutral in the economy at all? I mean, usually what motivates economic libertarians, whether they're socially liberal or not, is that they tend to be offended by the idea of the government helping the poor and the middle class to make it. And that's where their point of contention tends to be. And so, you talk about unions or you talk about healthcare or what have you, and talk about government services, and they're just like, I mean, totally repulsed by the idea that government can do anything positive for ordinary people. And I mean, and sometimes they can be pretty damn strident about it. And then you're like, well, what about the government doing the subsidies for this corporation or that corporation, or the government handouts for this business, or the corporately managed trade agreements, what have you? Oh, I'm opposed to that too. But they never ever point that out, and that's a far bigger problem. And again, depends on the libertarian talking to. There are libertarians who are serious, hardcore anarcho-capitalists, which anarcho-capitalist offends me probably as much as most people are offended by the term socialism on the American right, whether they're whatever little subsection of that right is, whether they're a paleoconservative, a neoconservative, part of the Christian right, or they're a fiscal conservative, or part of, or officially a libertarian in however way that they define a libertarian, that they are offended by the term socialism and have an irrational view of socialism, and everything I don't like is socialism kind of attitude. So and think about it this. I mean, let's say that the government in the United States decides to, within, I mean, like by next year, January 1st, decide to become a libertarian society. I mean, it'll be a foregone conclusion that the already powerful will just end up bribing the politicians or the government bureaucrat in this tiny government that they find ideal to allow that tiny government to look the other way as, whatever corporation or business entity is there to try to profit at the expense of their competitors or at the expense of consumers or people or workers or the environment. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion that there will be corruption, and it will be basically survival of the fittest on steroids. So, and the thing about it is, what little government that exists, and you have these entities, these businesses, these corporate special interests that sits there and bribe the politicians. That government in action is still an action. So this whole idea of coercion, violence, and tyranny, the way on the terms that libertarians define it, will still take place. That's the way I see it. And so, libertarianism is very dogmatic, just like Marxism is. And, the thing about it is, and I'm not saying that every libertarian, is a terrible person. As a general rule, I get along with libertarians, as a general rule. Just because there are benevolent aspects to the libertarian philosophy. Most libertarians are First Amendment absolutists, free speech absolutists. Hey, I'm with you there. Libertarians on that issue. Many libertarians are in favor of legalization of marijuana at a minimum, or legalization of all drugs to stop this drug war, because the drug war is a menace to our society, a menace to basic civil liberties. Libertarians on that one, I'm with you too. Libertarians, whether even if a libertarian is homophobic, transphobic, but they are principled enough to let their libertarian principles and worldview guide them, they may say, they may think that the LGBTQ people are icky in their eyes, but they're willing to allow them to have their freedom out of a principled love for liberty in general. I can respect that, even if I'm not too privy on them being bigoted. I'm talking about those who would be bigoted. But if they are like they're going to go and support freedom in spite of their personal views or maybe their religious inclinations on that issue, and liberty is what they find ideal, I can deal with that. So, basically, when it comes to this whole thing about the libertarian mindset, and as a leftist, as a socialist or a social democrat, and I personally intertwine socialism and social democracy is the same, and some leftists won't. And again, there's a wide array of view of libertarian thought on the right. There's a wide array of views of those who what socialists define as socialists too. So, and basically, no matter what angle or what corner of the ideological spectrum you reside in, or reside at rather, there's always going to be people arguing that their little niche is the correct path to go. And as a democratic socialist, or a socialist, or a social democrat, or generically as somebody who's a leftist in this country, I confess I have very loud libertarian inclinations. Not economic libertarianism, but libertarianism that's in the social sphere of our society. Again, as I mentioned, I am a First Amendment absolutist. Free speech is a strong tenet in my personal core politics. I am a right to privacy zealot. Again, that is very much part of my core beliefs. I am a strident opponent of capital punishment. That is a very strong core of my basic libertarian belief. I am a strong supporter of LGBTQ equality. That's a very strong aspect of my core libertarian beliefs. One could say that I am a libertarian leftist, a civil libertarian, socially libertarian, or socially liberal with libertarian impulses. But the thing about it is, it's a lot of people on the libertarian faction of the right, or the right in general, that may be friendly toward the term libertarianism will look at me all confused. How can you be a socialist and a libertarian at the same time? Socialism is all about the state and all about government. Spare me. It's my ideology. And my ideology says that government is supposed to exist to provide for the basic needs of all our people. And that means basic things like health care, a living wage job, housing, public transportation, school, free college, free school for people. And if you are unemployed or down on your luck, that society has to find a way to help you get back on your feet. You know, what they call the welfare state. And that has a negative connotation here in this country. But I believe in the welfare state. I believe in a mixed economy, that sort of thing. Now, with regard to freedom, I hear people say, hey, you support that free medicine, that's tyranny. Tyranny is employer-based coverage. Now, recently, Ben Burgess and Charlie Kirk debated on socialism versus right-wing populism, which could be paleoconservative or libertarian, depending on the individual, or sometimes they will mix it. And Ben Burgess basically eloquently emphasized that, hey, when you have employer-based coverage, people are being forced to work at a job that they hate because, hey, if you are sick or you can't, or your health insurance otherwise would be, your health coverage will be too expensive, then you have a situation here where it would just not be feasible, and it would infringe on freedom. And that's the thing right there. The freedom to not have to worry about healthcare costs or rationing your medicine, or things like if you don't have health care, or even if you're paying a lot for insurance, and the insurance companies can sit there and deny you coverage if they want to. I'll give you an example. I'm not diabetic. Nobody in our family currently is diabetic. But my great-grandfather was the only person in my family who was diabetic, and that was in the 1950s. And he had diabetes very late in life. And he had private health insurance. As soon as they found out he was diabetic, they canceled his coverage. I mean, that's freedom? That somebody who pay expensive premiums to an insurance company, and then as soon as there's an expensive cost that they're obligated to cover, that they're like, oh, well, we're just going to cancel your coverage, or we're going to try to find a way not to cover you. And then you got to go and either scrape your pennies together to get whatever medicine or operation that you want. And if you don't, you're either permanently injured for your rest of your life, or you even go and die. And even if you recuperate from whatever ailments you have, and that, depending on how expensive it is, that you could end up losing everything you own because of medical inflation, which is out of control. And it isn't the government that's making medical inflation a thing. What's making medical inflation a thing is actually inaction, a government allowing the medical industrial complex to sit there and literally fuck people over. So I just want y'all to think about that. And then we're talking about individuals. Individuals, who will you classify as a libertarian? And some people will classify Ron Paul and Rand Paul as libertarians. Well, I would say they may be the mainstream face of libertarianism in some ways, but Rand Paul is more of a conventional Republican. He might be one of the better ones in the sense that he's usually anti-war, and he does have some commitment to civil liberties. He's not Mitch McConnell, and he's not Mitch McConnell. He's not I'm trying to think of who's a right-wing doofus up there. He's not Tom Cotton. So so Ron Paul and Rand Paul would be considered libertarian in many people's eyes. There's some that would say that Ted Cruz and Michelle Bachmann are libertarians. And what's really fucked up about their example is that they're going by on economics. Yeah, they favor a lot of libertarian measures. Same thing with former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. He also would be considered libertarian in a lot of ways. He was heavily influenced by Ayn Rand, for what I've heard. But thing about it with Ted Cruz and Michelle Bachmann, they're foreign policy neoconservatives. They're religious. They're the Christian right. They're basically they're Heritage Foundation, movement conservative Republicans. Whereas Ron Paul and Rand Paul sort of don't fit into the Republican niche of things. And then, you want to talk about online, the media people or online people, what have you. Can I think of the name of the man that's the editor of Reason? He went to a rally to interview people who were opposed to the peace treaty with Iran. That was back during the Obama presidency. And Mark Levin was briefly interviewed and basically said how great that magazine is, Reason. And thing about someone like Mark Levin is he likes Reason for the reason I would hate Reason. And Reason, he loved the economics of Reason. But the things that he would hate about Reason would be things that I, as a leftist, would love about Reason, which is civil libertarianism, individual rights for people, no surveillance state, because people like Mark Levin loves the surveillance state. He was having an orgasm during Bush and Cheney over the Patriot Act and the whole idea of the government snooping at your phone, your phone numbers, your phone and conversations and your emails or what have you. Except when Obama became president, then some people like Mark Levin would become all of a sudden almost ACLU-like. Please, don't believe that for a second. So anyway, I'm ranting on and on and on, but basically, I wanted to touch on this because I get into conversations and debates with a lot of libertarians of many types over the years and all of that, and honestly, if I was a conservative, I probably would be a libertarian in in what most people how they will view libertarians, and the government out of everybody's lives in that idealistic way. And but really be motivated by, hey, pot legalization rules and LGBTQ equality rules and sex, drugs, and rock and roll and fuck the pearl clutchers like Phyllis Schlafly and people like that, Pat Robertson, who wants to sit there and busybody people's lives. But so anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say. And I just wanted to conclude by saying, if you like what you heard, press like. If you disagree, well, that's okay. We'll have a conversation. Again, if you like what you heard, comment, please. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolute, this is my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Also, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and until next time, I am American Social Democracy, and I would like to wish you all a great day, and hopefully you'll see me back here again soon. So I'm going to conclude with just a little bit of music, as I normally do these days, and y'all take care. Aha! Hi there, Nikki. How are you today? Radical Leftist Agenda is here. I'm looking forward to seeing Jackson Hinkle and Andrea Rovinsky debate this evening. So what's going on? You're off from work, like just taking a personal day off, or? Oh, who's on a stupid clout trip to Austin? Hold on a second here. Let me clear this. There we go. Oh, I wanted to go to the protest. Oh, is it the Medicare for All protests in San Francisco? Oh, okay. Jackson's in Austin. I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to get people involved with Medicare for All, like a Medicare for All in Raleigh, but I haven't really heard too much of a response. They just don't have it in them around here to protest. Oh my. Never got arrested at a protest. I've had some close calls, so yeah. They had one in Greenville, North Carolina, and they had one at Greensboro, North Carolina. Do I know DJ Joe Nice? I can't say I am familiar. Yeah, I would have gone to the one in Greensboro or Greenville. It was on a Saturday, and I never get a Saturday evenings off anymore. Yeah, I last protest I went to years ago, dare I say, was Occupy back in 2012. North Carolina is just not the hotbed of activism at times. The only area where I did activism where there was some positive return, I used to work with the Farmer Labor Organizing Committee trying to unionize Mount Olive pickles. Yeah, and 2004, some of us were invited to see the official signing of unionization of Mount Olive pickles. Yep. Oh, and that's been going on since the 1990s. I think it's 1995. I think it's when it started. And was involved with the Socialist Party in the 1990s, early 2000s, and we were a value ally, and they appreciate our work. I was trying to get my local union, USCW Local 204, involved, but my local union were not really all that interested. They just kind of like whatever, and just it's how it is. Well, I am going to get some sleep because I'm tired. And I want to get up in time just to check out the debate between Andrea and Jackson this evening. I'm curious what they're going to be debating about and all of that. Um, since you said you like to be called RLA, I'm taking that's how you like to be referred to on on YouTube and Twitch. So RLA, have a great evening, Radical Leftist Agenda, and okay, have a great evening, Nikki. All the best. I am headed off to sleep.